This is Talk of the Town, a weekly program featuring community events happening in and around Northeast Michigan, with your host, Nancy Smitham, and get the latest news from Alpena Community College with Dr. Olin Joyton. And now today's Talk of the Town.
Good morning and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Nancy Smitham. My first two guests today are here to talk about the Children's Advocacy Center. I have prosecuting attorney Ed Black and Kelly Septernick from Alcona Health Center. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Now, Kelly, you've been on before about the Children's Advocacy Center, and I know all about it, and I know what it is, and I know what a wonderful organization it is in our community, but I'm finding out that a lot of other people don't know about it, so tell us what it is and what you do.
Well, first off, thanks for having me back again. I appreciate that and letting us get our word out and our mission out of the Advocacy Center. Children's Advocacy Center, it's a mouthful, so a lot of times we will call it CAC. It is a community-based place for child victims of abuse and neglect, and their families come in, and we give them answers and support, and we cooperate so that it's all in an environment that is child sensitive and supportive to the families.
Okay. And Ed, as a prosecuting attorney, how do you work with Child Advocacy Center?
Well, we work with them in multiple different respects. Obviously, because it deals with child abuse and neglect, a lot of times we may be involved through DHS. A lot of times cases are initiated. But at that stage, what happens typically is we're trying to determine where we are, what's happened with the child. So from that standpoint, there's the interview of the children, and it's done in a friendly environment where it's not law enforcement involved. It's done with a non-suggested manner, meaning that the child is the only person providing the information. And that's important because it makes sure that we're doing and not suggesting anything. We're just allowing the child to lead what is happening. And it makes sure that the focus is on the child, not necessarily on a criminal aspect or a neglect aspect. It's dealing primarily with the child. So that's the process, so that's how we view it.
And those interviewers are trained. It's not someone that just walks in and starts asking questions.
No, it's actually Kelly herself, as well as a couple other individuals, are trained, and they're specifically trained in what's called the forensic protocol. It's an important method which basically is non-suggestibility questions. Questions that are provided to a child to allow the child to dictate how the interview is going to go and provide the information that the child wants to provide, rather than being dictated to by law enforcement.
Okay. And who are some of the partners that you work with in the community, Kelly?
Well, when you say partners, the first thing that comes to my mind is our multidisciplinary team response that we have at the Advocacy Center. And that is agencies coming together in cooperation so that we have the best positive outcome for the child. We have the prosecuting attorney's office, we have victim advocates, forensic interviewers, behavioral health specialists. We have medical providers that provide the medical exams for the children, and law enforcement also. And that is a team that all gets together, and like I said, we want the positive outcome, but we also want accountability and justice for these children.
And you know, Ed, I'm really proud to live in a community like we do, where there's so many gatekeepers to ensure that our children, you know, are well taken care of in a foster home, in a family home with grandparents, wherever they're living. And you, as a prosecuting attorney, I know that has to be very important to you. So how do you see working with the Child Advocacy Center helping you out in your job?
Well, as I already said, it's quite honestly, it's something where it's a neutral site. It's something where it's not suggestible. And what's important about that process is it's not just investigation. It's also trying to deal with the child's whole health and well-being.
Okay.
It's not just mental, it's physical. They have psychologists on staff, I believe, social workers that are able to help. And so that's important because we're not just taking a look. The criminal justice system can't solve all problems. You know, and so this Child Advocacy Center, what it does is it allows an approach that's broader. So from the prosecuting attorney's standpoint, I guess the way that we look at it and the way that it assists us is that it's dealing not just through the criminal justice system, it's trying to take a broader aspect.
That's great.
Does that
That's
make
great.
sense?
So by the time the child or the person would come before you, there's been some things set up.
Yeah. In
Absolutely.
fact, the whole idea is to make sure that what we're doing is right, and to make sure that what we're doing isn't just, it's not all about prosecution, it's about making sure that the child's needs are taken care of. Quite frankly, our hope is that it results in us finding out that we don't need to do anything.
Yay.
And exactly, and the non-suggestibility questions actually help us in that, because a lot of times, historically, law enforcement, if they went in from a law enforcement perspective and were asking particular questions, they're asking them seeking certain answers.
Right.
They're dealing with adults, not children, typically. The training that Kelly and her staff receive helps us find out just the answers that the child is giving to us. Children are known to be susceptible to being led.
Yes.
And so by having non-suggestible questions or non-suggesting questions, we get the answers that they want to provide, and obviously it helps us deal with the entire problem, not just what law enforcement might perceive as the problem.
So now, Kelly, when a child comes through the Child Advocacy Center and there's been evidence that there's abuse of some sort, then you contact law enforcement at that point?
It's the opposite. CPS
They
and law
contact
enforcement
you.
contact me.
Okay.
And one of our main goals at the Advocacy Center is to have a child victim become a survivor of abuse. Victim to survivor is the long picture that we want to see in the end, is for these families to get the help that they need as far as counseling and therapy. Our victim advocates will support these children and their families all along the way of that process. We set up their appointments if they need their medical exam. We find that a lot of these kids do need the medical exams just to make sure that everything is okay.
Sure.
It's normal to be normal, and that doesn't mean that abuse hasn't happened, but we have to still make sure that everything is okay with their body, and we provide that for our trained medical providers that are trained in abuse and neglect physical exams.
Okay. And I feel everyone in our community has the responsibility, if you feel a child's being emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually abused, any form, to report it. So a lot of times you're afraid to call, or you're afraid to report it because you don't know, but your gut feeling tells you something's going on. So what would you give, what kind of advice would you give to someone?
I would say that definitely report. If you have a suspicion, you can report, and the number is 855-444-3911. That is the centralized intake number for the whole state of Michigan.
Okay. And if someone has some more questions about Children's Advocacy Center, Kelly, what's the best way to reach them?
Certainly they can call me at the
Okay.
Advocacy Center, and that number is 358-3564.
Okay, well, we're out of time. I want to thank both of you very much for what you do to protect the children, the most vulnerable people in our community. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I'll be right back following these messages. Hi, welcome back. My last two guests today are both from Thunder Bay Theater. I have Bradley Hamilton and Roxy York. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
So glad to have you here. So the first question I have to ask you before we get into God of Carnage is, how long have you been in Alpena and what brought you here?
We've been in Alpena for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
We are here for God of Carnage and our next show, I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change.
Okay.
And so I heard about Thunder Bay Theater from an audition notice on a site called Encore Michigan, which is a website for professional theater throughout the state.
Okay, and what's your acting experience to date?
I graduated from Hope College with a Bachelor of Arts in theater with a performing emphasis, but I've also done a whole host of things off stage as well.
Yay, Roxy, how about you?
Well, I also heard about Thunder Bay Theater in a similar way that Bradley did on a website called Backstage, which
Okay.
where you post auditions. And the second I saw the notice, I just had an inspiring thought. I was like, this sounds like a place for me. Like, this sounds like a great season. And when I talked to Jeffrey Mindock, who's the artistic director of the theater, I was like, this is a person who knows what he is doing. He is running a tight ship, and I want to be involved. So I feel very fortunate to be here. We've been having a really good time in Alpena. We've been seeing the sights. I went to the Shipwreck Museum.
Yay!
I loved that. That was a lot of fun. But my background in theater, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Boston Conservatory. I graduated in 2013. And directly after that, I went on the national tour of Beauty and the Beast for 9 months.
Well, yay.
Yeah, it was a great I love to travel for my work. I think that's a great part of being an actor. So anytime I get to sit down for 3 months total in one town, I love it. It's a really great experience, and we've been treated very well by everyone here. We're very fortunate.
Well, tell me about God of Carnage. I don't know much about God of Carnage.
You're going to. It's a great, great play. We like to refer to it as like a manner play without the manners,
Yes.
Okay.
if you will.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we can't tell you too many details because we're trying to keep a lid on it. But that's not to say that there's not enough to get the town talking once they come and see it.
Okay.
It's gonna add a little bit of heat to this frozen tundra of the winter. It's gonna spice it up a little, I think.
So is it a comedy?
I would say it is a comedy, and it's a thought-provoking comedy.
Okay. So I'm going to leave there and be scratching my head thinking?
Not really.
Okay.
How I think about it is that it's a 4-character play.
Oh, okay.
And either you will see yourself in this play, you will see your neighbor in this play, you'll see the in-law you don't like in the play. There's something for you in this. It is very close to everyone's home, I think. And that's why it's been fun as an actor, and maybe you'll agree with me, Bradley, that it's not that hard to get there. Because I know this character that I'm playing, and I know the character he's playing from my own personal life. And that's very interesting.
So who are the 2 other characters?
In the play?
Yep.
Yeah. So we play a couple. Bradley plays my husband, and then there's another couple in the play. And the premise is that we're 2 Brooklyn couples meeting together because the other couple's son hit our son in the face with a stick and broke 2 teeth.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So what actors are playing the other 2 roles?
The wife is played by a woman named Lauren, and the husband is played by Kyle.
Okay.
They are both from New York.
Lauren lives in New York. She's from Ohio, and Kyle's from LA. So we're all from all across the country.
All over the place.
Which is another great part about coming together and work on a project. You get people from all different perspectives and all across this great nation of ours.
Well, and when you come to a small town and do theater in a small town, it's so wonderful anyway because you become part of the community. You get to do everything that's involved in the production. You know, what a wonderful thing to have on your resume as you're going onward and upward.
I agree.
So when can we come to Thunder Bay Theater and see God of Carnage?
We open March 19th, and it runs every weekend until April 4th.
Okay.
We have Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening performances at 7:30 and Sunday matinees at 2 o'clock.
And we always like to tell everyone, make sure you call ahead, get your reservations,
Yes,
go out to
please
dinner
do.
before or after, get a group of people. It's much more fun that way.
Yeah.
And then the thought-provoking play, go have a couple drinks afterwards and talk about it.
And just laugh, because I think people will regret it if they miss it.
Okay?
I think you're going to want to get tickets for this one, for sure.
Okay. And now you said you're here for 2 productions, so what's the next production?
The second show
Is I Think You're Perfect.
We're going to rewrite it like that.
It's a musical called I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change.
Okay.
And it's a vignette-style musical where it goes through all of the different stages of a relationship. So it starts off with couples meeting and first dates and leading up to the wedding, which is the end of Act 1. And then Act 2 is all about what happens after the ceremony, so the honeymoon, the kids, the growing old together.
I wear a really hideous bridesmaid dress. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be important.
Now, are there going to be any songs that we recognize in this production?
I would gander to say no. Yeah. But I think that might be a fun experience to have. You don't have any preconceived notions. You're just going to experience it for the first time.
Okay, sounds wonderful. And then we always like to tell people that if they have some donations that they would like to donate for sets or scenery or things for the actors' homes up above, or if they want to be a usher, a docent, whatever, you know, give Thunder Bay Theater a call because you always have volunteer opportunities for people working in the box office, helping with fundraisers, and all kinds of fun stuff.
And we're a fun group. They won't be disappointed.
Now, were you involved in the Maskers program at Alpena High School? With the Maskers?
With the show that just happened?
Right.
Yeah, we definitely all were involved, and it was great to meet young people of the community, and it was very inspiring to see that they were so inspired by theater at such a young age.
And such talent as well. I'm excited to see how they grow with Thunder Bay Theater and beyond. there's some real talent in the community, and
Yeah.
I was very happy to see that.
Very impressive.
Well, I'm so excited that you did that. What a wonderful thing to work with them professionally, as professionals, and teach them all the stuff that you've learned as you're going, what good and bad parts. And Jeffrey Mindock said it's going to be an ongoing effort. You're going to continue to do that with the Master's Club at
it's
the high
terrific.
school.
I'm excited to work with them again.
Okay. And now if I ask you the phone number at Thunder Bay Theater, are you going to know it? 354-2267.
She's going to take my job.
So if you need to call for reservations, which please do, call for
Yes,
reservations.
please do.
Call the box office, get your tickets, come on down and see God of Carnage. They're not telling us much about it, so that's really piquing my interest. It sounds like it's going to be wonderful.
But it's going to shock you. It will.
Okay. Wonderful meeting you. Welcome to Alpena, and look forward to hearing and seeing good things from both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please stay tuned for Dr. Olin Joynton following these messages.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm Olin Joynton, president of Alpena Community College. My guests this morning are Robin Benson, who is the Organizational Development Manager for Alpena Regional Medical Center. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thank you.
And returning to the program, Jim Mikowski, who is the Director of Specialized Education at Alpena Community College, right across the street.
Right across the street. Yeah.
Very good.
Glad to be back.
Well, the occasion for this interview is a happy one, and last month Alpena Regional Medical Center did receive the Workforce Development Award from Alpena Community College at the Chamber Annual Dinner. And so you were responsible for a lot of the activities that took place, Robin, at the hospital, and Jim on your side providing the training. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Let's begin, though, with your background, Robin. Where'd you grow up, and how'd you make your way to Alpena, if it was from somewhere else, and where'd you go to school, and how'd you get into your current job?
Sure. It's been an interesting ride. I did grow up in Alpena. Originally started out at Alpena Community College in an accounting program. And I was about 3/4 of the way through that and decided I needed a little more excitement, so I went into teaching. And at the time, there was a program at Spring Arbor University. Completed that as my undergrad degree, and then went on to finish a master's in education. Did work several positions in Alpena, and applied for the position at Alpena Regional Medical Center. With my background in education, they thought that I could help serve that department and serve the employees.
So I guess the key word in your title would be development, and
Yes.
the process of development is strongly keyed into professional development, education, continuing education,
Sure.
those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
in all aspects, from requirements that are mandated for hospital employees to have to those that managers may see as some area of need for the employees, regular competencies, many types of programs, yeah.
Very good. It reminds me of the ACC mission statement to meet lifelong learning
Yes.
needs. And I think everybody knows today that you don't just go to college when you're a kid and that's it. That the training and reinforcement and expanding the depth of your knowledge and learning new skills as they come along, that's a lifelong process.
It sure is, yeah.
It's great to have you engaged in that. Now, Jim, you're the one of the chief officers for the college in setting up the programs that provide the kind of development that Robin was talking about.
Sure.
And how about a little bit about your principal duties in that regard?
Well, the college provides obviously the credit side, training classes for that, and I work principally on the non-credit side in a wide variety of areas. One of those areas is through the grant that we have received from MIOSHA to provide safety-related training to area businesses, and that's where our paths crossed with Alpena Regional Medical Center.
Well, it's great that you and Don McMaster have been able to find sources of funding so that the training can be provided to employers, in many cases at no charge whatsoever. And so I want to commend you and Don on the skill of making those programs work. Now, you mentioned safety.
Right.
And I believe that was the focus of the training that ACC did for the hospital. Is that correct?
Not only did, but is still doing, actually. So,
Robin, how did you first interact with Jim to set up the training that took place?
Sure. Well, Jim came to me with the opportunity of working with the MIOSHA grant, and employee wellness and safety being one of my key areas of focus. I just found it really interesting that we could partner in a way with some experts, and that's really what we need to do, is find the experts in the fields of area of need of education for our employees, and offer the opportunity to partner. And it really was an interesting partnership. We met a few times before the training occurred to bring his experts and some of our own physical therapy specialists in the hospital together to bring together some interesting components, and I'll let Jim talk some more about that. That really met a lot of learning needs for different types of learners, and also for the different types of roles in the hospital.
Good. Well, you mentioned safety, Jim.
Sure.
What was the focus? What types of safety training was the hospital in the market for?
Well, let me back up and just say this, that the training that we're providing for them, what made it noteworthy both locally and at the state level, is that we took a pretty non-traditional approach to providing safety-related training. Enabled partially by, obviously, Robin's enthusiasm, but the committee that we put together in a partnership within the hospital, we were able to provide important safety-related training in an area that the state has noticed has been trending up in injuries, and we've been able to focus it on those who provide health care, specifically moving people, patients around, and that's where the incident rate of injuries is increased.
I've heard about that on the news, that or nurses and other providers hurting your back, lifting a patient, moving a patient around is it's a big hazard on the job, and there must be techniques that people can learn about to avoid those injuries.
And we teach those techniques, or we remind them. It's not that the employees don't know the techniques, but it's helpful to remind them and give them some refresher training, help them to do some hands-on training. But we were able to we took the innovation of the training. Instead of gathering people into a classroom and offering the training there, we actually, Robin arranged to have different patient rooms available to us, and we just provided training throughout the day, and nurses and others would cycle through to minimize the impact on their operation.
So it wasn't sitting in for a long period in a class and taking notes. It was flowing in and out. So that you were actually doing the techniques at various times during the day that would fit your schedule.
And employees, when they first come to Alpena Regional Medical Center, they get back safety training, but that's when they first come. I'm sure it's very, for me it was very overwhelming at first. There's a lot of new information, and so we, other than doing some educational modules on an online setting, this gave them the opportunity to combine the online background and resources that they viewed before coming to the in-person training.
So keeping
with
it
Jim.
real and keeping it fresh.
Right.
And keeping it brief. And keeping it on target.
Because it's important for patient safety and for our employee safety. We needed them to be able to access it in between doing their patient care or in other roles.
Good. Who were the trainers and where were they found?
Well, we partnered with the physical therapy department. So we had a trainer from there. We had one of our experienced nurses from the college do that. One of the interesting things that is out of the ordinary compared to the other training that I provide, and it was a product of the committee, and it is this. As a man, sometimes I don't look at training in the same way that a woman would look at it, but the specific thing that the committee came up with, knowing that most of our audience are women, they're nurses, they decided one of the motivational aspects of coming to the training was make sure they provided chocolate. So that was theirs.
Well, we're out of time. Thank you very much for being on the show today, and congratulations on working together to achieve this award.
This has been Talk of the Town with Nancy Smitham and Dr. Olin Joyton. For a list of events taking place in Northeast Michigan, visit our website at www.wbkb11.com and click on Community. This has been a Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation production.